delight. What is it? I thought I knew. Thought I had a bead on it. Previously to contemplating this sermon, I probably would have replied that it's enjoyment, pleasure, happiness, etc. Now there are times when I'm thinking about this thing of delight a little differently. In looking up the etymology of the word delight, I find that it comes to us from the Latin delicare, which has its roots in the idea of something being delicate or delicacy, delicious. But surprisingly, its oldest connection goes back to the idea of being charmed, rendered helpless by something that seems otherworldly or even supernatural. And I love that. The idea of being rendered helpless by the delicious, by the delicate. For my wife, Katie, the idea of delight occurs when something expected occurs unexpectedly. For her, she finds it in the crocuses that bloom outside of our home in spring. Each year when spring is near, she ogles the Lexington landscape in search of these deep purple, yellow, cream, white, lavender explosions. But one day, she forgot to do so. She was not paying attention as her mind was on work or teaching or church business or any of the number of hundreds of daily responsibilities that she has to take care of. And then one day, when she was not paying attention, there they were. She knew they'd always come, but not when. And when they appeared, without her realizing it, it was a wonderful surprise that engendered in her delight, that takes her and stays with her, and she brings that into our home. And it makes our space even more delightful. In a similar vein, a friend spoke to me when I asked her of it, she's talked about the lilacs that bloom in her backyard. She planted them years ago when her mother died. They are and were her mother's favorite flowers. She related that every year when she does a deep cleaning of her home and opens the window to air the place out, every now and then there's a breeze that picks up and it carries that scent of lilac to her. How it fills her with a delight, a poignant delight that brings with it the reminder of her mother's loss, but also a delight that brings a bit of her mother back to her. We both love the book, The Prophet by Regie Gibson. For years, I read it every year, New Year's Eve, when I wasn't out working. But as Gibson writes in his piece on joys and sorrows, and if you've not read The Prophet, I would encourage you to do so. And if you've not read it, you probably don't know how impoverished your life is. But one should read that. But what he reminds us is that, he says, is not the cup that holds your wine the very cup that was burned in the potter's oven? Then it concludes, and is not the lute that soothes your spirit the very wood that was hollowed out with knives? Both of us taking delight in that moment, both of us reading that again. So yes, sometimes we may have to tease out delight from what is an undesirable circumstance. Find it where it is most unlikely. For instance, now that I am a man of a certain age, the certain age that I get up a couple times of night to go to the bathroom, there's a very well-worn path. When this started happening, when I had to get up to go to the bathroom more so, I got a bit morose and thought, and so the decline begins. You feel me on that, huh? Okay. But a bit ago, I found a study reporting that approximately 150,000 people die every night. No, they're not the same people, but different people. They die every night And so that is approximately 12.5% of them that die in their sleep. The study went on to say that this death tends to occur mostly between the hours of 11 o'clock p.m. and 4 o'clock a.m. So finding out that rather morose fact, now when I get up at 2 a.m. and I have to again walk that well-worn track between my bed and the bathroom, I kind of go, thumbs up, 2 more hours to go. You know, I'm almost through it. I'm almost done with it. Now, of course, you know, that's not reasonable, but it gives me a bit of joy in a moment that reminds me of my too frail humanity. And when I think about that, it brings me delight. And there are other sayings that I've encountered that have also brought me delight. Can anyone out there maybe think of anything, any sayings that may have come to you from the years that when you think about them, they give you delight? Anybody? Just yell them out. Let's hear them.
Good morning.
It's good to hear that and to say it, right? Anyone else?
The ocean.
The ocean, right?
Love you.
Love you.
The sunrise.
The sun is rising, yep. Now, I'm sorry, who said something else?
Walking in the woods.
Walking in the woods, right? These things that give us delight. Me also being a person of words, like I said, language is a thing that brings me delight. I'm from the South. I was born in Mississippi and raised in Chicago. And in the South, we have many delightful sayings. And one of them I've always liked was that expresses delight is, well, butter my butt and call me a biscuit. You know, despite the image of taking that too literally, it is a moment of expression of surprise, of deliciousness, of bewilderment, and yes, of delight. Another moment of delight, words bringing delight, came to me when I was traveling. I was in Arkansas. I stopped at a truck stop, and there was a driver at the counter. He was looking over his route, and this was before GPS was a thing. And he wanted to write something down, but he could not find a pen, so he's searching himself for one. And as he was doing this, the server came over, and she saw what he was doing, and she poured him another cup of coffee, and then she just reached in her hair and pulled out a pen, gave it to him, and said, "Here you go, honey." And he looked up, and he responded, "Thanks, darling. You're handy as a shirt pocket." And I thought that was delightful, right? That connection, you're handy as a shirt pocket. But what even brought me deeper into that space was what she responded with. She said, "And you are as welcome as the flowers in May." I know, right? I was so charmed by that moment, that exchange between two strangers in a diner. Yes, they both had accents that made my lynch-fearing self fear them. But that moment of exchange of pleasantries during the day, and you know, was something that I still think about when I get into certain spaces. Perhaps that's it. Delight. These small joys that visit us like crocuses when we least expect it. That breeze wafting the scent of lilacs into a room. Poetry found in a mundane exchange in a greasy spoon along a highway. Perhaps we flutter to delight like hummingbirds moving from flower to flower. Flowers that, if we but ask for their nectar, will give us a sweetness that will help to keep us going. Often delight carries with it an epiphany, a sudden revelation and illumination. The first time I think I consciously remember experiencing it with words was I was around 7 years of age, and I was visiting my great-grandparents in Mississippi. And my great-grandfather, Robert, he was illiterate. He could not read, he could not write, so he would make up songs. He was what they would call the caller on the railroad. He was the one who would help the men who were hitting the spikes to keep their rhythm. And my grandmother was in the front of the room, right? And my grandfather was singing one of his railroad songs that he had made up. I am working now, all day long, Lord. Here comes the sun, traveling tracks of sky. Oh, Lord. Now, there's a lot of poetry in that moment. If I come to my grandfather now and say, you know, you was doing this analogy between the sun and the sky and the tracks and blah, 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 he'd be like, boy, I don't know what you're talking about. He was singing what was in his soul. But what happened in that moment is that my great-grandmother, who was in the front of the room, who was a very, very churchy type woman, she used Jesus and God like punctuation, right? You go to her and you say, hey, how you doing? I'm doing however God wants me to do. What we having for dinner? Whatever Jesus put in the pot, you know, that kind of thing, right? She'd say, you ask her what time it is Jesus 30, right? But she was singing this song, I want Jesus to walk with me. I want Jesus to walk with me on a long life's pilgrim journey. I want Jesus to walk with me. And what happened is I'd heard them sing those songs before. But this moment, those two songs came together. And I can't really do justice to it. But it was sort of like, I am working, Jesus, walk with traveling tracks of, oh Lord. And my brother and I turned to each other. And we shared that moment. And we talk about it to this day. Right? That there was something there that brought us to delight, even if we don't have any name for it. And I think I've been journeying back to that moment all my life. This bringing together of what would be the sacred and the profane, the spiritual and the worldly. And that beginning was where I placed my love of music and my love of words. It's the first time I ever remember those being brought together, those bringing to me those moments of delight that I had no words for, but I'm still trying to find those words. Perhaps this happened for you. If we search ourselves, we probably find those, and I think we're going to need them even more in this world in which we find ourselves. Take these moments of things and cobble them together into a picture that can bring us delight. I'd like to conclude with something that I hope will bring you all a little bit of delight. It was born out of the sentiments that we should seek joy and not let the ugliness of the daily news and the insanities of this world win. To me, seeking delight is a form of rebellion. Right? It's a form of rebellion. And I used to think about that when I think about Louis Armstrong, who he smiled a lot. And when I was younger, I would think this is like the smile of some obsequious head scratcher. But I grew to understand something about Louis Armstrong. He just plain refused to let the world steal his joy. He refused to do it. You will not win. That's what that grin was telling us. So, in the spirit of that, you got a little bit of work to do this morning. All I want you to do is, when I say it's been a good day, you know, you just all, when I point to you like that, you just got to say, it's been a good day. Let's try that. It's been a good day. All right, good. See, I'm glad that you guys did that, because some people suffer from RDD, which is rhythm deficit disorder, and they don't get it on time, but you got it right. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Now, I wrote this piece to draw your attention to all the good the nightly news will fail to mention. That is all the bad that could have happened to us all today, but somehow as of yet didn't. I wrote it because I often find this Homo sapiens species of mine often has a mind inclined toward being pessimistic. Now, it's not our fault. See, these big brains of ours tend to trend us toward the dour, and that is an evolutionary thing, by the way. But if for a moment we afforded thoughts to disasters we've thus far avoided, I think we'd have to say, hey, it's been a good day. Given all that could have gone astray, it's been a good day. Given life's capricious come what mays, it's been a good day. I think it's not a crazy thing to say, it's been a good day. A very good day. Now, when things get rough, look at the bright side. At least today you haven't lost another eye. Cops haven't found your stash. You didn't get into a car crash and die. Didn't become the subject of a true crime drama, didn't get bitten by a rabbit llama, didn't get hit on by the ghost of your best friend's dead grandma. Didn't get a blood clot, didn't catch a case of crotch rot, didn't discover a new orifice in a place you would rather have not. So given all the bad that could have happened today, but as right now isn't, why don't we just admit it? Hey! Given all that could have gone astray, given life's capricious come what mays, I think it's not a crazy thing to say. A very good day. Now, the other day I was walking along, had my favorite shoes on. What did I do? Stepped in dog poo and thought, oh man, that's just wrong. Well, that's when it came to be. This revelation dawned on me. I could have been walking down the street wearing no shoes at all. Then I remembered what someone said when I was in the 6th or 7th grade. It was a poem about a bird dropping a little present in his eye. He said first he got mad, then he thought and got glad, and thank God that cows don't fly. Given all that could have gone astray, given life's capricious come what mays, I think it's not a crazy thing to say. It's been a good day. My friend, the poet Rick McIntyre, who lives here in Rhode Island, he says, always look for the light because the darkness will find you all on its own. And I try to remember that in between those times when the big fists and the jack boots of this world compounding and kicking in this door in my head. May you also find delight when and where you least expect it. It may take you when you most need it. Thank you. And now, if you will rise and open your hearts and your voices, we are going to sing our thank you. So if you will be seated, I have some closing words for you. Something I wrote for you. It's, I think that's right. Closing words. This is based on a song that I know we all know the melody to. So I'll just sing what I have here, but it's new words to it. The feel of wet grass beneath the soles of our feet. Winter mornings in bed between warm flannel sheets. Sharing dessert with someone that you like. These are some things that can bring us delight. A ladybug walking the sink in your kitchen. Being done paying for college tuition. Reading a poem and the language feels right. These are some things that can bring us delight. Dancing and singing when you really can't do either. Learning to love just a little bit deeper. Hearing mom and dad, I'm gonna take your advice. Because life has shown me that you're always right. Okay, that last one probably won't happen. But isn't it something that's great to imagine? And maybe being open to possibilities, no matter how slight, is what makes it possible to experience delight. So let us move through the world looking for and being open to the possibilities of these moments. And to paraphrase Shakespeare, may we find sermons in the stones, tongues in the trees, books in the running brooks, and a good in everything. Peace to you, and be a blessing and a delight to this world.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Please say the words for extinguishing the chalice with me.
Extinguish the chalice of my life, that I take with us out into the world, sharing with those who encounter on our journey.
I forgot to ask about the closing circle, but I noticed when I'm on Zoom that people have just been standing in place. Okay. So we will do that. We will stand in place and sing our closing song.